How you doing? This is Ivan from Freedom from the Known. Today what I would like to do is share a few quotes from a recent article I wrote on my blog. It was about the most inspirational travel quotes of all time. I just hope that they inspire you to get out there and see the world. The first quote is, "You have to get lost before you can be found." This is by Jeff Rasley. The reason I love this quote is because I can relate to it. Uh, when I first got my real taste of traveling, and not just a touristy vacation, like living on my own, moving to a completely different country, it was very challenging at first. But the reason that it ended up being so rewarding is because it really helped me discover so many things about myself. Uh, what helped me also was just the attitude that I went going into it. I was very open-minded, and at that point in time, I was also going through a phase where I was questioning everything. I was questioning everything about society, my family, myself, and I just wanted to get away from it all for a while to have the space and the freedom to really inquire into some of these questions that I had. And what I found was by going to a completely different environment and by having this attitude of wanting to explore myself, it it was a great combination because that freedom of being away from my family, my friends, um, my culture, it help me see how much it really influenced me and how much it made it, how much I identified with it and how much of my identity I derived from it. And what I came to find was that most of it was nonsense. Most of it was um, an illusion. And I came to realize that how most of us we mostly live in a large part of our imagination. A lot of what we think is really an illusion. And if you don't question any of these things, um, you just live life like a horse with blinders, and you become very one-dimensional. So, but what happened at first when I first got abroad and I was living on my own, I went through a phase where you start questioning many of these things, many of these attachments, psychological attachments, and kind of when you start seeing how false they are, and you start and you start to no longer derive your sense of self from them, they become shaky and they start to fall. But when they start to fall, you find yourself in a new place because now the things that used to define you and used to confirm who you are, who you were, who you thought you were, are no longer there. So you find yourself where you go through a feeling of like losing yourself, and it really is losing yourself. But what you're losing is your false sense of self. And this was basically my a springboard into my spiritual journey. This really helped me see and discover within myself the different levels of consciousness, the way that we observe the world. And it was amazing to me because I see how unless you can see something and able to penetrate it really deep, you won't question it, and unless you bring it to light. And what traveling did was it helped me see things in a clear light. And it wasn't just traveling itself, but it was my attitude. But placing myself in that type of atmosphere where I don't speak the language, I'm not familiar with the culture. I have to do everything on my own. I'm alone. I have no friends. I'm there just trying to start a new life. It was amazing, yeah. So I would suggest for anyone, if they find themselves in a place of where they're trying to discover maybe who they are or what they're about, that yeah, traveling is a great way to give yourself the space and the freedom to really take a good look without having your usual environment to um, to hold you back in a way. So, okay, let's see. Next quote. Okay, those who know nothing of foreign languages know nothing of their own, and that's by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Yeah, it's just recently, I've really just developed a love for languages. I can speak 3 languages now, um, and it's just amazing how each language. It's basically like having a different operating system when you when you start to think in a different language and see through a different language, it really filters the way that you see the world and how you interact with the world. And it's just very fascinating to see how each language frames and um, relates you to the outside world. And you make many wonderful discoveries. And I'm a people person. I like meeting interesting and unique people. And if you go to a foreign country and if you don't take the time to learn their language, you're going to be connecting with people mainly on a superficial level. And if you really want to understand the people of a foreign country, you need to make a real serious effort to learn their language. And it's extremely rewarding. And I recommend that anyone make a serious effort. I always believed that learning languages was difficult and that I had no knack for it. But if you really commit yourself to it and you learn to suspend your beliefs, it is going to be a lot of work, but it's really worth it. If you just really try, slowly as you get going, you start affirming and encouraging yourself to keep going, and slowly, like baby steps, you start getting better, and as you improve, it's like being the Neo in the Matrix. All of a sudden, like a whole new world starts opening up to you, and it's amazing when once you start to understand your outside environment, it's no longer gibberish. You feel like you're cracking a code or something. It's pretty awesome. So I recommend you guys to learn. If you want to go to Mexico and you don't know Spanish, learn Spanish. If you want to go to Japan and you've never been in Japan, learn Japanese before you go, or as much as you can. At least survival. Get yourself up to survival level. So when you get there, you'll be much more encouraged to continue learning. And there's so many resources on the internet. Uh, Find a program that works for you. I also wrote a few articles on learning languages. I'll put them in the links below. Let's see. The next quote is, "What gives value to travel is fear. It breaks down a kind of inner structure we all have." That's by Elizabeth Benedict. Kind of along with the first quote that I commented on. When you move to a foreign country and you're all on your own, and you start losing all these usual ways that you define yourself, um, it can, for many people, it can be extremely scary. I had a little sense of fear at the beginning, but because I was in the mode of like discovering and I really wanted to find all these things out about myself. I wasn't really necessarily, I had fear, but it was more curiosity. But I can see how it could be very scary for many people, because we all want to be something in this world. We all, I guess most of us, much of our pain comes from trying to become something in this world. That when all of a sudden you see that in actuality we're all just ordinary. Nobody is really superior to someone else. And when you start dissolving all these false illusions that you had about yourself, you start feeling a sense of nothingness. And for many people, that's very scary, because nobody wants to feel like nothing. But if you keep going on your journey, you see that nothingness is nothing to be feared. It's actually what's going to help you become fulfilled in life as you start to go with the flow with life, as you find your proper place and you see the reality of things, and you start to feel more at peace with yourself, because you no longer have this inner struggle of your inner world and your outer world. That struggle of you trying to seek approval from everything that you want to identify with. When you no longer have that, you just feel a sense of amazing peace inside. Like when I was in Prague and I lived in Prague, I would just walk and wander around the streets, and like kind of in a timeless bliss, because at that point in my life I was really in a meditation, and I would just go and just wander the streets, and I got into a space where I wasn't thinking as much. Like I had these gaps in my thought where they were getting bigger and bigger. Like most people usually it's just one constant wheel of thought after thought after thought. It's a continuous thing. But soon I started experiencing these gaps, where it's like a thought would come, and then a gap, and then another thought, and these gaps started getting longer and longer. And in those gaps, that's when you discover who you really are. And in those gaps, you're not processing the world through thinking. You're more in the world of feeling. Like you go from thinking to feeling, and then if you can keep going from feeling to being. And I would just love to go in the park benches and just be, just sit there, just be attentive to my whole environment, listen to the birds. It was just so beautiful. Like you realize, you're like, oh my God, when was the last time I actually paid attention to these birds, and actually paid attention to how beautiful and how happy they are, like, and yeah, things like that. It was just so amazing. Those are some of the happiest memories I have, was when I was just wandering aimlessly and just taking it all in, just in constant awe of my surroundings of life. Um, but yeah, for many people, you'll go through a phase where you experience a lot of fear, but what you come to realize, also when you come to see the structure of your mind, is that you see that all fear comes from thought. From most of it is an illusion, because it's bred through thought, through thinking. And I'm not talking about real fear, which is instinctual. That's what you learn is, you know, real fear has its place in your instincts. If there's a dangerous situation and your body tells you get out of there, you get out of there. But what happens is, later on we start to dwell on situations, we start to think and become identified with our problems, that we give continuity to this fear, which is mainly an illusion. But so you remove a huge weight off your shoulders when you see the nature of fear and see that most of it is self-created, and when you become free from that, that feeling is amazing. You feel a lightness, like I walk around and feel like I was walking on clouds, because you have no longer all this emotional baggage that you're carrying. You're just free, and just the simple sense of being and of feeling yourself through that, and yeah, this just the simple sense of I am is, um, yeah, it's pretty amazing. I encourage you guys, if you have never done much traveling, to get out there and see the world. These were only 3 quotes that I did for you guys today. If you would like to read the rest, just go to my site and I'll put the link down below. And I hope you enjoyed that. And sorry for rambling on. I just felt compelled to do this video. I had no script or anything. I was just speaking what I felt in the moment. So sorry if it's kind of hard to follow. You guys have a great day.